Travel around Haert. By L.T. Zupan. Read by L.T. Zupan. Published by Leo Thomas Zupan IV. Copyright 2020, Leo Thomas Zupan IV. Bonus Post Chapter 4 1 dash 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 dash. It dawned on me to go to Vietnam when I was living next door to a huge casino in Columbus, Ohio. When I first moved into a small apartment across the street from the Hollywood Casino, the only casino infatuation in Columbus, Ohio, of dang nab course, everything looked okay, but something definitely felt very off about that little apartment complex. I was now pushing 3 years of living alone, which was decidedly reaching its breaking point. Although it was certainly appealing at first, being completely on my own life had degraded to a measured series of repeated routines. I found myself drinking heavily at night, though never during the day, which is still a discipline I maintain, and as a result, blasting emotionally exposed music at night through my shitty computer speakers. I also created noise day and night by using topical external, not internal, never internal, vibrating devices on my substantial human male penis for sometimes 8 hours at a time, whilst watching explicit compilation videos I edited, which were usually 3 hours in length apiece, much more refined, specified, and hot than most damn anything you find on the internet, while simultaneously smoking, drinking, and occasionally doing hard drugs. It was a decadent time in some ways, and very depressing, really. Sometimes I would burn through $15 on the motherfucking slots. So, the neighbors didn't like this vibrating noise of mine, and separately, especially, the music I played all night by Tori Amos and Marilyn Manson. They over-retaliated by playing an evil clown laugh recording at random times, just to mess with my mind. And yes, it really worked. This was around the time I realized that everyone, including myself, has their psychological breaking points, no matter how hardcore you are. This terrorist-ish Cold War went on for months and really was way, way more excruciating than you might imagine. All the while, everything that could go wrong with my trailblazer, Traily as I had named her, in the dead of winter, did. I was teetering on my last wheel. Finally, it occurred to me to go back to Southeast Asia. I had been to Tokyo, Japan, Beijing, China, and Hong Kong for a few months, back in 2005-ish. My first incorrect thought was Chiang Mai, Thailand, or Bali, or perhaps Davao City on the island of Mindanao in the Philippines. Still, the glass onion needed to peel its orbit a tad onward for me to uncover the final path and the way, and the as they say. It took quite a while, but I finally got to the nuggety kernel core. 2 dash 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 dash. I was planning on selling my Trailblazer to go, but all got thwarted when I learned I needed to pay $1,000 to get off the fucking passport denial list because of a lot of not my fault whatsoever bullshit. And I wound up only getting $500 for my Trailblazer anyhow. So I was really effed. So anyhow, before selling my SUV, I decided to attempt one last trip with it. The 2018 National Rainbow Gathering in northern Georgia. Likely the last gathering I will ever care to go to. No pot of gold in any way that matters. BTW. Do have lots of gratitude, please, because I freaking do. This was one gathering I was actually legitimately ready for. Well, ready enough. I drove from Columbus down to the Chattahoochee-Oconee National Forest in northern Georgia, having a fairly uneventful and direct trip there. I was by myself and I arrived at 3 a.m. or so, utterly exhausted but still hopeful somehow. I got to post-seed lot gate or whatever the fuck it was seeing itself as at that point, and was greeted by grumpy old negative man, whom I had to cheer up, and was told about just how badly the LEOs were fucking with Rainbow Family this year, to the point where I had to spend the next 45 minutes going up and down the maroonish, mountain alley, winding, tiny dirt cliff, crazy-ass roads in my car with a now literally about-to-die transmission situation. All this because the cops were using their parking rules power to excess as a tool for the fucking with of and to people like me. I really lucked out after going up and down 4 times and managed to eke out one space that looked like it would be solid for the entire length of the gathering. 2.502 weeks for me. Going up and down. The cops would never back down, so I had to go oft in reverse up and around these crazy, narrow, cliffy-ass fucking roads, aka trails. I almost tranched my truck, or worse. You see, you got a problem right there with your clutch and your tranny. You gotta fix the hose and the valve on your tranny there, man. That's your problem. You really need a quart of some high-grade tranny fluid there, buddy. 3 ... For this gathering, I decided to not even pitch a tent, and just always went back to my mattressy thing situation in the back of the Trailblazer every night. It was pretty decent, actually. I had brought 18 2-liters of generic Moontan Dew, and proceeded to get willfully fucked up on opiate pills from some random kid, all to wind up having an entire day of passing out Mountain Dew to all those whom appeared as arriving in, tired, walking in, shocked by the awesomeness of the unexpected bright green gift behind their glasses and cups. I met a man who wanted to smuggle me down below the Southern American border, which I always declined, but who did wind up giving me this awesome-ass suitcase, out of kindness, to which I do still use to this day on my plane trips to and fra S.E. Asia. As a major way, he helped me secure my original belief that I could actually pull off this going to and living in Southeast Asia for an extended period of time. Bang. Overall, I found that precise gathering to be rather overrun by hoodlums and actually kind of a bummer. I did see many of the same old characters, and that was pretty cool at least. Docket fat kids threatened to weaponize the wingnuts as a retaliation towards nicotine at night camp. I found that to be thar an outmost brilliant porridge outpost steel. And what do you call a transgender postal carrier ass person ass? A female man. Ha! Made that one up. Also, the sky gods in Skynet were just a touch annoying inside of those multiple weeks. Finally, I did left, and not a moment to whatever to. I drove back up out of the forests and got to my first major freeway truck stop and cleaned up. I was officially done with all the work and things that needed to be done / happen at that gathering. I drove onward on my way back to Columbus, Ohio, and on through a new page. 4 ... Maybe 2 hours, 30 minutes later. Maybe 180 miles. The fucking Trailblazer finally fucking died, dude. I was in Sweetwater, Tennessee, It was the only car I'd had in more than 5 years, I think. And it will hopefully be the last one ever. It's not good for me to drive. Just the infringing truth. Not even a tiny car, aka smart car. I mean, I guess it is true that tininess is smart, especially when it comes to ass. My mom came to the rescue, like she has so many times before, and I registered at a hotel in Sweetwater, Tennessee. The mechanic eventually bought the Trailblazer from me, which I jettisoned there. I went back to my gnarly home by the casino without a vehicle, yet only for a short time. Soon then was moving out from that stupid evil place and staying with my sister Audrey temporarily while I saved to leave America once more again. It's always difficult being around someone who often can't even have a basic hi, good morning, bye type of conversation. It's also difficult working at a pizza shop literally run by gangsters because you need under the table pay. But somehow I endured the shouts from the cars driving by and the territorialism of the monetarily poor neighbors. The cute little dog only tried to bite me once, too. Chiang Mai has too many problems with the weather, specifically when they burn their rice fields there, and when the winters are cold and the lack of ocean. So that morphed into Bali, which is too expensive if you don't have the proper non-touristy inroads credentials. So that morphed into the Philippines, which then came under terrorist attacks whilst illegalizing smoking tobacco nationwide. That's right, folks, you heard me. You can't even walk down the fucking road anywhere and smoke a goddamn motherfucking cigarette, for fuck's sake, Izzy. Thank you, Mr. President Duterte. Fucking asshole. So that morphed into Da Nang, Vietnam. After much skepticism, I began to almost half believe everything I was hearing about this well-kept secret. I had many surreal experiences where I worked and I had to witness a Dunkin' Donuts / Baskin Robbins slowly get erected outside of my sister's residence. It's now finished and shiny. Last I hear, that is. Time is funny over here. I had many grueling times during that elongated stint, but I did finally manage to bring everything into and through its proper closure, which included ridiculous governmental organizations, both American and Vietnamese, I was distendedly dealing with at that time, and learn all that I needed to make my move to Da Nang actually work. I had everything perfectly packed and planned. 5 dash 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 dash. I was ultimately dropped off at the airport, all alone some. I flew to Chicago and discovered staying at the airport that day was rather annoying because of all the men in Chicago that were going out of their way to be loud braying canker sores that day for some damn reason. The plane then took off for Tokyo, and the Asian stewardesses were more than flirtatious with me. I got off the plane and walked through the airport to its smoking lounge, destined for Da Nang. I began to realize what a different realm I was now in. So, well on my way to Da Nang, first came Then Pho Ho Chi Minh City, aka Saigon. Unbeknownst to my old self, the Saigon airport does actually close around 2300 hours, or something that you can imagine like Paraquat. So I was undramatically stranded for a night, my first night in Vietnam. It was night because the day was at end, which is crazy, man. Cotty. And yes, let me just say, right here, right now, the Spracketal currency converting ass money changers will rip you off if you don't know how to push back in such the rightest of prepared ways. Taxi-ish scammers all but hounded, bounded, and hammered me on down to the buttery ground when I was first trying to escape the fucking air portal. Planes, obligatory sigh. I wound up walking all my possessions in the world through a veritable sea of motor scooters in their late night Saigon, only to eventually find a reputably looking back alley, 800,000 per dong per night hotel, hotel. But I say true that it did take 10 to 15 minutes for the air conditioner system to actually make the room cold, but that's okay. Wait me 1 minute. If you really want to get political with me, try not talking about hours for fraudage. No offense to fraudagers. I guess, geez. And then it was just a little quick flight to Da Nang, where I took a cab to my preserved hotel. 6 at long lastingly I had arrived, and this sort of thing is always like a dream. Still more, to do with a little of the beautiful romance of it, comes later. While I checked in and had to ping-pong between little hotels for a few weeks, until I decided I liked the first one well enough to arrange a monthly stay rate. The first month was a money disaster of a learning curve, but eventually the dust settled. I fast learned which watering grounds were the fosterers of fucking Western men jerks, and which etc. I went to the ocean, to the bar funnily named Apocalypse Now, the ocean current absorbed wind from the giant blanket that is the deep, dank, crystal milk ocean top. Never disappoints. And that wind is sometimes strong in Da Nang. All that remained was for me to find somebody to love. Not the sole reason I came over there, mind you. Just my fucking sole reason for fucking being alive. That's all. 7 .. So I began the barely arduous process of dating online in the Vietnam as a Western male. Whilst this was slowly and gradually progressing, I also picked back up to writing the 11-page stories book, Oh My, Through Me, and set out in general to explore the strange new territory I was now a familiar in with. Let me just say, prominent and please, that I can never express enough positive things about the Vietnamese people, nor can enough negativity ever be directed at destroying the limitless, exploitative, idiotic Western man's ploys. So I did wind up escaping the tourist sect district for 3 to 4 months, but I digress. I began to explore as best I could. Food began with a pho restaurante, which is obvious and perhaps metallic, and perhaps never say more. Why you snuggle a lot? Hey. And banh mi as well. Through the course of time, yes, I would eventually be shown by my new girlfriends to mi quang, as well as far too many ridiculous awesome fishes to eat those. The biggest shocker to me of all, was within the first week when I found the 43 factory from some online computers and ordered a sick-ass iced coconut coffee. Shit is just ridiculous. Home sistery. Oh my god. Can't be described in actuality. So by and by, before my dates really started off with all the girls, I began to meek and luxuriance bar tour, which included sky bars, hippie bars, coffee/bar bars, by the ocean, the like. But beyond the bars and coffee shops, I went to the only library in town. I quickly found it to be way too hot and painfully smoking unfriendly, like so many places in what you could call the stupid world in the now days. Going to the gaming cyber shops wasn't much better. But I didn't have a laptop, and so I tolerated the shrieks of teenagers playing their World of Warcraft bullshit-esques. They really do get comically loud. I also went to the lovely Champa Museum and was very moved by the Shivas and elephants and concubines and whatnot. You should never blend concubine, and columbine. Word to the wise. Turbine nor Columbus. Onion head hats. I used to dream of fucking Genie. I took an annoying bus to Annoying Hoy and Annoying one day. Tourism Central, though some things on the way and fro, and while there, did pop out of the scenery as interest. Walking around was adventuresome, as are the post office and the FedEx copy shop type places in Vietnam. You should go to the soft opening of the Golden Crack restaurant, or photocopy my dung if you need a photocopy or some bar food. Everything is cheap as sin now. Some of the UDF type convenience stores smell bad. I get used to it. I frequently went on visa runs to Laos. On the first one, I was dispensed over-the-counter Valium by one of the girls, and I already had my over-the-counter codeine and beer. But not my over-the-counter Viagra, which I don't need, but which is fun and convenience. Again, the scenery was waft and interessante on occasion through the windows. 8 So before I permanently escaped the fairly disgusting and fairly stupid tourist district, I explored the main 8 or so bars, including the one that was rated for selling illegal over-the-counter weed, and found a lot of idiot men cohabitated there. It was strangely cliquey and just chock full of idiocy. The Western women all looked like giants amongst the Vietnamese women. Frankly, I don't know why they even bothered, man. I became loose friends with one of the bar owners, though he was rather odd, but pretty darn nice, and almost sort of had some magical nights. And again, there was always the occasional threatening animal-like arrogance of the Western male fools. So you always at least had that. At the coffee shop / bar by the ocean, I met Chow, a kid that tended bar there. He was lively and resonant. I found myself stirring up the vibes with him and felt like I was back to my old magical days at Maud's. We even ironed out that whole upcoming robot thing, which is relatively exciting. Also, I would get siphoned into bullshit drunken escapades by an unending supply of Western male fuckheads. Though sometimes real magic did manage to poke its head up from under the nonsense blankets. My friend Mason in particular really had his moments. Through some time, everything began getting old, as it always does when things fucking suck to begin with, like they do in that moron tourist area. I always refuse to get a motor scooters is FYI 9 So, starting to discover the local and the tourist expat bars and such, I went to a place called Radio Something or Other and was blown away by the music. Absolutely blown away. I mean, my God. It was like what we had in the 90s over here in America, only so much better. The Royal Lotus Sky Bar was always far from a letdown, as was Sky Bar 21 or the Golden Pine Whatnot Dealy. These are luxuriant bars on the top of skyscrapers with trigonometric pools and diagonal. Fucking retarded how cheap they are. No offense to the average American people and the seemingly always white Pope, whom are fucking retarded. One of the big things I learned further from going to Vietnam was that every culture has its own set of rules of what is supposed to be right, but a ton of those rules aren't truly right or wrong. They are really just random. There were so many beautiful places to walk around with high-rises and the ocean and parks without outdoor exercise equipment and Buddhist temples and virtually no crime to speak of, except maybe from some rogue ladyboys. You really felt like you were in the saddle of luxury. Overall, going to Vietnam was a truly liberating experience filled with powerful, wise beauty, an environment far superior to USA. One of the major things I appreciate, being immersed and surrounded by Vietnamese people is their mellow, cerebral approach to life and to its problems. The lack of countless bullshit rules, though there are some extremely rare and mild shenanigans. The old deep wisdom that permeates from a culture thousands of years old. As opposed to America, I just feel calm and right and good when I am in Vietnam. Obviously not in the tourist regions, though. So many times walking around, I'm surprised by how I actually feel so good so often. It's a life with such pleasantness and heaven to it. I haven't lived that kind of a life in so much longer than I can remember. Walking along the coast in the dead middle of the night countless times with almost nothing but peaceful Asian people. Walking into any shop or business and always being greeted with kindness simply for the sake of kindness. Unselfish people everywhere. Never seeing police of any kind anywhere for up to a month at a time. Never seeing homeless people, let alone aggressive homeless people, which reminds me of the oh so many years I was homeless and the many cruel and lazy people I met in those circles, amongst a minority of souls with legitimate issues and common decency. Being refreshed by a society that actually fucking functions like the states used to 30 plus years ago. And moreover, the overflowing, electrically contagious, fantastic feelings that flow from all of that. Shit that has been post-forgotten by pathetic, self-centered, flaky as fuck, confused ass, dumbass America. Vietnam rescued me back to myself, you see, and then some. Living in a room that had a window overlooking the fucking spectacular, always perfect weather ocean for $185 a month. I would walk out to the beach and just sit there and stare at the largest statue in Vietnam of Quan Am, aka Kuan Yin, in the distance, which I had no idea would be there after having more than connection with Kuan Yin for over 8 years, and then stare back at the ocean and drift and return. So many sunny days with Earl Grey tea on the beach and sometimes music and beer and always quality cigarettes for 70 cents a pack. I felt healed from most Americans because of the true consideration, caring, empathy, and respect from the local people, to the point where I couldn't help but eventually charge up back to myself after I was healed. Coasting day from day in such soft, secure perfection. Regularly and without fail, shot into a vibrational reality 3 stratas higher than the standard worldly one, to where everything becomes bright, gentle, burning violin and pure transposition. I really was and am very, very lucky, I believe. Although I am now back in the US for the next 7 weeks, before I return to Vietnam for 3 years, so I am feeling pretty damn low lately. I just have a lot to thank Vietnam for, that's all I'm saying. Along with all those who fought wars before eras, so better things could then happen, unless you don't believe in shit. 10 ... So on to the girls. Politely thank heaven. So as I've already said so very many times, I heart Uyen with all my love, for as ever as it is possible to meet her, other than volumes of lifetimes leading up to the preceded old bullshit, I had to first get on vietnamcupid.org.com and Vietnamese Tinder and other flocks of nonsenses. I wound up going on dates with roughly 6 girls, with others in tow too, but only 2 did I get physical with until Uyen came along. Then I put the axe to dating all of those other chickadees. The first was a torrent affair with a Singaporean lady, whom I think became frustrated because she had such a thing for me, but lived in super expensive Singapore, which ruined our thing. She went home after our night together and left her phone in the taxi cab. I wound up mailing the SD card from it to her because the hat is what a nice guy I fleeking am. $10 to mail from Vietnam to Singapore, BTWFYI. I live next door to the Italians, whom I dearly love. How can you not love most Italians? And I took the second girl, who I think turned out to almost have a stalker. Well, not quite a stalker, but an obsessor streak, out to a pesto dinner with basil grown in these motherfuckers' own back garden. Only to kiss her quite a bit. Kiss her in a special place, being as how tiny she is. And finally, before perfect Uyen, was some 19-year-old student, though I never did manage to kiss her. I remember going to her dorm-type deal, which was way poorer of a humble hovel than what you probably could imagine, whoever you are, that is. I'm not sure, just who you are. And was hoodwinked into eating part of a beef heart. It was grody. The girl was upset because her favorite butcher knife got bent from one of the kids trying to use it to cut through bone. Getting to the dormishness was struggle enough as it was rain season in Da Nang, and I was forced to walk through knee-high flood current to get to her doorstep, a riskier activity than I should have realized at the time. But I did go to karaoke, very popular there, of course, with her and her friends, 32% of them being competitive guys, however, and was quite the gentleman, to the best of my ability, despite the occasional rock screams of my Jim Morrison karaoke, to her. Eventually, she wound up on my bed, but it was just not accepted to kiss her, so I kept on dating her and trying to woo her. We soon did move on. 11 Uyan. My sweetest love. So there's one Starbucks over there in Da Nang, and I found it prudent enough. Still, really, the main chain is Highlands Coffee. And the biggest location in town functioned as a circulatorium hub globe. You would sit out in the indoor smoking area with tons of huge windows partially opened in this giant circular coffee shop dome and watch the epic behemoth seas of traffic, always 97+% motor scooters, on the roundabout around you. Just swirl and slowly go, to no end. It never got old. This, after a cat and mouse game online, is where I met Uyan for the first time. 12 What struck me almost instantly about Uyen Lee pronounced Lee, other than her total perfection and her earth-shattering beauty, was that she had a real sense of humor, which spelled to something more, an actual spark from a tour de force of intelligence, and an umbilical to the soul from a knowing of oneself. You could tell she understood life, was forced to deal with it like all of us, often confounded by it, but had seen enough to also appreciate the comic nature of old vast reality. It was more so the spark, rather than the sense of humor the spark bred, which had stood out to me. I could see it in her eyes and feel it in the electricity of talking with her, within minutes of meeting her. I was already falling in love with her kind and impossibly pretty magical soul. We occupied the mental by talking as much as possible. We also had a hefty Bunyan set of language and cultural barrier issues to straddle enough wit. And our coffee date, very popular to coffee date in Vietnam, ended with an invitation to go to the Christmas church with her. 13 I mulled this over for the next few days and finally decided it would be a FTW YOLO move, because it would maybe illustrate to her what a good man I actually am. Catholic Church in Vietnam, as it turns out, has a slight Buddhisticism edge to it, and I do enjoy it a bit more than American Catholic amassings. Uyen's son, Hoang, is simply a delightful little 5-year-old boy. Wild, but genius and kind, overall. Uyen is the first woman I am in love with enough to go out and buy her a bouquet of flowers, which happened to be violet, and for whom I also did spend an entire day scouring the city for a simple box of Kraft macaroni and cheese for 14 there and by. The Tet holiday did eventually roll on around to us, and we wound up going to the countryside for 4 days to meet the family. Tet is basically the length and importance of the Christmas holiday in Saudi America, but it behaves or functions or whatever more like Thanksgiving combined with New Year's. The peer pressure to drink over there can be absurd in certain contexts, but what can you do? I found her family, especially a few of her brothers, to be absolutely delightful and super inviting. They all were, really. It was pretty amazing. In general, as lately in my life I have said so many times, America could really stand to learn a lot from Vietnam and other places for what it is worth. Eventually, we made our way to the Chua Lin Ung Pagoda, home to Quan Am, aka my beloved Kuan Yin, and the vastness of tiny humble her, and the abode over there, statues, etc., is definitely unspeakable. Not to mention the oceanic size of the magnitude of the feelings of peace and heaven pouring on through the vase. 15 Life began to become unbelievably radtasmaphoriacal. Uyen moved in with me and our apartment life was glory-tacular.
And now, for a brief interruption, as we briefly turn away from bonus post-chapter 4, I assure you with the grand nakedness filled to the sunny brim of shaky but not stirring promises that we shall, oh just so very soon, ransack and return back to bonus post chapter 4 after this brief poem. Sorry for the goddamn fucking interruption. You goddamn little sugar melon snacky gizmo, alright? Fuck. Fifth poems. Poem 1 for Uyen.
Greatest love for beautiful Uyen. One. God is my best friend, and you are my greatest love. Our love is more complicated than words, and it is bigger than just one world. The color of my mother's love for me at its most special moment was golden, and that was the seed of God showing me what is pure and what is good, and how almost nothing is. It was easy to find everything bad. It was hard to find everything good. but I looked for 25 years, just trying to find Julia. Our love is better than time. And 3 years before I would meet her, I started to see her in flowers, in stones, in songs. The first time you gave me love, I cried. The first time you tried to make me happy, you gave me peace. Now I feel like me again. Two, our love is more beautiful than poetry, but our love is never more beautiful than you. Sometimes I start looking at you, and I never want to stop, because what I see is so much more than so perfectly sweet. A thousand ways I want to give to you, after I say 1,000 thank yous. We just fit together. I don't know why. One body, me and you. One mind, you and me. One heart, so comfortable and warm, like an ocean of purple fire, like a new home.
And now, as Satirationiali promised, or forebowed, the return to bonus post chapter 4. Fuck.
After a month and a half of that, I finally left the godforsaken Tor Schism zone and moved into a nice rental home with her in an all-Vietnamese part of the city, literally next door to her shop. Crazy convenient for everyone. Day-to-day living with Uyen slowly changed me. I was in heaven. I had every type of medicine I needed, and more than some. She is just 4.5 feet in height. I am 6 foot 2 inches tall. We both love the fact that sometimes she is my little girl, and we are both very physical, creative, and romantic lovers. We can't get enough of each other. Also, we are highly skilled in the art of not fighting with each other than the natural tiniest rare bit of instance. We love talking and laughing together, exploring, listening to music at length, watching movies, and going to the ocean, 15 minutes walk from our apartment. Among other things, I won't talk about the insane glory of the fucking snuggling, home fry. She's just the type of girl and the type of woman I just feel good after I've been around her for more than 20 minutes and stuff, dude. She always, and without failing, snaps me out of any kind of a negative space I might be in. I am amazed by my love. Sweet, florally angelic, perfect Julian. Heaven, I tell you. I'm in goddamn heaven when I'm with Uyan. 16 .. I remember going to the nightclub with her and her family and the little guy, lovable Hoa'ang. It was pretty crazy, but also just great, clean fun, perhaps unlike many American clubs. We would occasionally also go to the river, and she would drink a half glass of Western red wine at the neat river lounge. One time we went on an all-day field trip for Hoa'ang, and it was rather blissful by the end of it. All the Vietnamese people, per usual, were nothing if not welcoming to my strangely self. And just like that, it all ended. For now, that is. 17 dash 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 dash. I then undertook the 44-hour marathon of taxis, planes, and airports. Trip back to Columbus. Crying at the first airport, which included stopping at Ho Chi Minh City and Hong Kong, with a respite stop finally to have some smokes outside in Los Angeles and Charlotte, good old Charlotte. Uyen, who works 70 hours a week to earn $400 a month to provide tiny barren living quarters for her little son and herself, had scraped together the money to buy expensive gifts for every single member of my large family. And I instantly set out to dispersing them accordingly when I got back to fucking Columbus, Ohio. Shortly thereafter came Ortonville, Michigan, with my sister, with the GPS leading us through tiny-ass sheriffy towns at 2:30 a.m. Stressy risks for reasons, the lot and the like, was in order to complete that fucking suspensioned thing, which was connected to an overall thing, cycles within patterns, macro, etc. Suffice shit to say, I'm fighting deep sadness and apathy each and every doldrum day that I wait in the fucking United States. Though it technically isn't all bad, and I do always really have tons to be grateful for, including my mom for multiple reasons. Destined to return to Vietnam for 3 years, starting in late October-ish. It is late August 2019 as I sit and smoke and type this. 55A dash 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 dash. Be all that as it all may, there is also remembrance as I sit here, finishing the roughly 500th page of the Travel Around Haert extended first edition, which will complete, at the very least, for quite a very long time, what I have started 7 years back or so. There is recalling of that orgonite heart, which is still dissolving into the ocean of the all, currently, and at the same time, finally complete, as of this instant, is the first total journey of travel around the world with a knowing of the heart. 55B dash 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 dash. So I still need to record the audio form of this and listen to it and seal its distribution in all its forms. From my spare time, eventually also, probably in 2020 or 2021, will come a Travel Around Haert second edition. It will basically just have most of the handwritten components of the novel transcribed, along with some very, very minor updates to things like the table of contents because of the addition of post-chapters like this one. And maybe a fifth post-chapter or more will be added by then, but I mega highly fucking doubt it. Still, it shall have no changes whatsoever to the body of its texts. Geographic traveling itself is what dictates when or if more writing comes in service to this book, be it further expansions and additions beyond the first two, or even the dreaded sequel thing, the material required from which I can pull through and generate more of Travel Around Haert through me, is a traveling that also has to be on an intense scale, as motherfucking well. Point being, we'll just have to see if that happens. I feel it is more likely than not, strangely enough. 55C dash 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 dash. Ever so, most importantly, I know I need to get back to Uyen Lee and seal our goals motion. So as the year 2020 soon begins, I feel that the life of traveling into the heart is what shall soon be ready truly to fully start. For myself and in general, non-locally. Maybe in the near distant future, after everything's are more solid and prepared. Me and Uyen and our little family, we hope to have one daughter. We'll pick up to traveling from time to time. Tokyo is curious to me. Australia, India, maybe even Ireland and Europe, etc., etc. After all, she is an astronaut. 18 dash 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 dash. For now, I wait with bated fingers, breath crossed, and I do believe things will go according to plan, well enough, as odd as this rock planet is. What more can I say to? The fox said. You're crazy like a fucking idiot. Well, so, until the next time travel picks back up, which will super likely be quite a long while, but hopefully not too far from now. I wish all the best. 19 dash 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 Lee 3:33:33 8:27:19.
Fifth Poems. Poem 2 for Uyen. Loving Uyen. I love everything that is you. I love everything that is Uyen. "99% of every time I do anything, you try to understand, and you really care. And the 1% isn't near as bad as my 5. I was born again. I was born new in 2019, the year of finding my love for you. I love how time changes with my love. And 1 hour is like 1 day. That I wanted to be a decade. All the music and movies about love were just a preview and the soundtrack to a trailer to The Sweetest Life with You. When I am lucky and old with you, you make me so young. Our love is bigger than the sun I played under when I was little. And your skin is the white silver moon light. When I'm sad, all I need to do is think of you. When I see your beautiful eyes, I remember God. Every day is better. Every day is better. And the greatest gift I ever have is to know sometimes I make you really happy. My love for you is stronger than Lee. My love for you makes me feel like peace and fire. Because now I am lightning, touching a true star. Bonus post chapter 5. 1 dash 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 2 dash dash dash. Of course, Kursrunt. I found Leself writin' viz tatties Earl year grey tea than expectoration excuse me, expectoration 3 dash dash dash. Yes, traveling into the heart has finally begun, impervious to those, etc., who skip ahead when they peruse a damn book. Unravelry had to have bun first, done now. 4 dash dash dash. I finished the cursed trip to Michigan with audio dray. Things worked out in such a fashion that it was technically pointless had I were to gone to America in at first placer idea. As a partial makeup, I was presently offered a homestay at Audrey's for bit. Spiritly, I finished the crestial core of my Haert channel. I tried to restrain as much of the lobby leveler de insults. Let's contain there in Yezi, Oldie, Frimph, Kememb, Free, Freeway, Higf, and probably didn't succeed. 5 dash dash dash. Morphine and Suboxone are bad for you, as the crow has whence saith. 6 dash dash dash. Point being, I managed to flew back. One new place on the way was Seoul, which is the capital there of South Korea. I stepped off the plane and had my first significant time back outside of the goddamn America. But it was basically just a full 24 hours in the airport, as pressure canned and frequently do say. Many people were popped into the need of things that happened from the meeting of with them, faster than waffle time wove writ town 7 dash dash dash. Okay, first I wander to the you can smoke and drink at the same time zone of the comparably massive terminal. Just met with a procession of corked up miscellaneous. The first one is always nice, but he was a hangers-ons. Follow-up comes this fellow whom's name's forgetting and just gets more and more fishy as he goes. More on this guy, who is obsessed with overpriced watches in a minute. 8 dash dash dash. More importantly, I find my way back into the arms of the sweetest, kindest, most divine, beyond beautiful, sweet and lovely Uyen. I believe I shall never forget the day I reunited and retruthed with her. It is etched and engraved as the unique imprint of a petaled lotus wrinkles its newborn freshness, touch, shake, texture, as soft as the water surface, whirlpooled as lightly around the gold embracing hope I concerned myself with, bleakly bleeping my sore heart's radar off the screen until I knew it was always true. This gift I'm stuck with now and on, forever on. She is even tired of my grateful praise, though I'll always know why. I still will never, the luckiest I ever dreamed a dram of. Sad efforts to speak of the miracle Lee said, sighs. 9 dash dash dash. My audio plans were not frustrated. But yeah, the dude from the airport sucked. After eating spaghetti and reconnecting stronger than ever before possible, I pushed for and set that double date. He was hypertypical and did what he thought would conclude the night nicely by fucking with my private personal fucking side bag, man, and then taking enough stupid ass pills to literally go and sleep on the sidewalk of a huge goddamn one of the busiest main boulevardes in the beautiful metropolis of Da Nang. To make matters cliche-er, I think he even was fucking surprised that I was surprised by this behavior. Every year I realize more and more how we people really are rather often just animals. And 10 dash dash dash, enough of that though. Moving on. 11 dash dash dash. So before I knew it, Tet has rolled back around once and again to Hannah. And I love Tet too. Set the book down. I have this wicked and vicious bronchial condition content to contend with, and I was just patient -1/4/COVID-19. My sickness bled inside of Tet's family. I never understand anything before I understand or see its restless NLP fuckery. Poor Bandler is smart though. I find ways of hiding the infinity of coughs and throat clearings every day. Her mom's pretty nice to me. At the end of it all, we wind up walking around some little city none of us has ever been to before, going to a coffee shop 5 floors up with a view to kill for. I remember clutching down the hill road as a huddled masses inventing forms of governance. Finally, it's Canslink and Chantp overback bus night. I strode one more visa run before the virus struck. 12 dash dash dash. Maybe you have heard of a little thing called the fucking virus. 13 dash dash dash. Oddly enough, Uyen gifted me with Intorducken, the fucking dentist. I'm talking $7 cavity filler a piece. I got 4 and they're holding up nicely, I should think, and say $7 goddamn cavity filling for fucking $7. Fucking kidding me. I mean, she only used topical Novocaine and it didn't even hurt. Truly amazing. Anyways, God. 14 dash dash dash. Next up, Bonna Hills's 15 dash dash dash. Let me say first that picture at the beginning of this post-fucking chapter is the clearest known surviving photograph of the old orgonite heart that the book revolves around in a way or from and or, but you don't have the print version if you're listening to this audio. I mean, you might, but, you know, blah, blah, blah. 16 dash dash dash. Bonna Hills has the loveliest and tech longest cable car ride known to man. I fell even more in love with Uyen as we sauntery and nobe denouncing little French fried fucking streets in the dusk of our stolid winter wait, Kabul Aero, Tinog, Frigg. I carried her piggyback, though neither of us were piggish for once, in a reincarnative band of Carouselt times Magi-zine, warrior fuckcess, I die, digidres. 17 dash dash dash. I have gotta take a nap. But let me just tell you, a virus sucks you all. Know everyone. Gotta do's, gotta does. Sack. 18 dash dash dash. Virus description Secheon, bitch. So in Sokolate, Viet Cone, it first was a few months, not more than 3, of pretty harsh lock plus in pressures tile. Till through I went on and on Loa Round case you don't get it the first time. I'm sick of saying the word first too mammy times. I'm sure there is wicked ASCII meh. Spell it right. I'm an angry reader now. You've highly fucking defended me, dude. We had not considered that was fucking interesting. Man, just papers, dude. Soviet is, why the fuck ahead of fucking goddamned America. But no, these bastards, every single human from China is very racist. Have to bring in a fucking virus again ahead of schedule for some kind of stupid, boring, usurpy, money-making drama. Finalily, there is a little thing place called the fucking grocery fucking store. Excuse my fuck. Specifically, Big C. It is like the Walmart of Catalace in school. They may mark you tardy. And it's pretty hard for me to argue with I walk the fuck in one day. Granted, trouble, ada, ready brew, chicken brof, still. A fucking grocery store should be a fucking grocery. Sure, not a fucking goddamn police state, you fuckheads. And Thrustra ended the fucking virus in Nam version 1. Overall, of course, the country handles everything virus-ish so much better absolutely than dumbass America. French bread tube sales only? What? 19 dash dash dash. So I eventually got the temerity to get there to take an Uyen bride in realistic cause it's highly likely hope out on a riverboat. It was actually a lot better than expected. On a differing note, Tupac is obviously better than any other rappers, including those named Big, Little, whatever. Seriously, he really is. If I haven't already stated this, okay. On another differing note, if you're expecting a big finale to this literal book, there isn't one. The best life is one that gets really good, and then the blissful, slow, gentle riding sway of the wick just keeps flowing from year to year uneventfully, save a few funny quirks here and there, and all along the way, so tired my ragdoll being raises just a drop of love. I'm falling into the puddle ocean of it, love. 20 dash dash dash. I figured out how to get and had a letter sent to me. Nothing to write home about. 21 dash dash dash. We went to another little in-city amusement park, but this one was more like a perma-fair. 22 dash dash dash. Uyen's shop has grown and multiplied. I don't understand how I can love her so much. I never want to understand. I don't know why. God, I love her. God, I love her. She's the first and last I have come to love, who sells crates of masks and makes a ton of money in the process in the time of viruses. Fucking genius. Okay, enough of my understatement in whoreship. Not whoreship, by the way. 23 dash dash dash. One thing that also found itself in secret, I suppose, getting bigger, was the centipede. This Australian fool tells me that you should set a big one on fire because he respects them, because they're tough. I flush them all away. By the way, the best way to kill a big one is to use a broom, to keep it at a distance, and then cut the head, probably the tail too, for good measure, off. Keep in mind that these are the foulest creatures from hell, and they never studied their holy homework. Mary Magdalena. (24) hours a day. 25 dash dash dash. I wish there were 34 hours in a day. Bitchezzy. 26 dash dash dash. Ethan and me continue to have a phenomenal relationship as he is such an awesome individual. On an equally important note, the awesome Jonah wound up finally being allowed to have a relationship again with his parent, me. I am happy beyond words to finally be back in touch with him after his entire childhood. What pain and missing was permanently burnt into existence by his mom can never be undone, from her blocking our relationship for no reason other than petty spite. 27 dash dash dash. Oddly enough, I read The Stand to Jonah in the belly of Amam, and he in turn and said to me a few days ago, Octra 20, 16 years later, that he was planning on reading The Stand, which he still doesn't know, at least not to my knowledge, that it was read to him when he was in a damn womb, y'all. Which brings up how I am brave enough to try to be funny and fail when continuing to try and insult someone who doesn't really deserve it, such as by calling Fred Durst a fucking idiot. But sure, Jonah's biop mom is nice. I mean, it's obviously bad form to end it there, and takes away from my endless love for the all-field Brefgam. 28 dash dash dash. Again, love is the best virus, politically, and all other normal and weird whisks. 29 dash dash dash. I'm still waiting to get paid, by the way. We then abruptly, shudderly, picked up and went off new to Ho Chi Minh City, aka HCMC, aka Saigon, for a basic roll-through of a bit of every ale again a bed, which was doctory, and I found a triangle scrap or stripe lost turned around while everyone was kind to me. Whatever. The relatives got married. Don't take out my mumbles. Lee. The relatives got married and related to each other closer. I could not afford the blue tea at the time. It used to be a pre-daycare. Toiletcare, if you will. You will. Oh, yo. 30 dash dash dash. Next, sanctioned Uwari. I started listening to Inanna's original scripts. 31 dash dash dash. Some people are more telepathize than an 32 dash dash dash. I went to 5 flower shop in the bloody rain, and I bring it up because some female-ass woman tried to sell me $5 worth of flowers for $63. It's okay. I got her 8 million golden flowers. 33 dash dash dash. After 3.4 reschedulings, my sweetest love and my me will go to a place called my son on X-giving, excuse me, Merry Christmas 2020. Not a literal reference to my daughter or my son, by the way, and I already went. Fairly near to Danang, or Dang for short. Yay. Fuck. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Meh. On early morn, post-nuisance storms that averted our genre. 44. Me and Uyen and me awoke. 34 dash dash dash. Last but not least, me and Keen put Legos together. He is more than talented, and there is always more to be said about everything. I have grown to profoundly love the little guy who is trying his best, yet doesn't really need to, because he is just awesome, like other people I know, such as his mother. $39 dash dash dash. Piece by piece, my life has come back to itself. Gratefully, I say, the future looks like a good and bright mirror of a shiny now. (1346) 32.08 October 30th, 2020. Coordinated Universal Time Zone, or Sliver. L.T. Zupan. Yes. Nothing else compares to the heart. Words after. Words after. An afterword to this entire flippery book. One, for those who never bother with additions and unsexual fluff. Dash dash dash. Welcome back, for the first time, to the gravity of the first line of a book's introduction as fresh womanly, calmly allied, self-referential as it may be. I do promise you that the grammar rules may have been thrown out of the kitchen sink round-izer with the baby water and all of the moistelettes. Excuse me. Mouselets. No. Chipmunkalets. Hamsterettes. Syndrome. Okay. What you hold in your chakra sockets is a book of two distinct editions and evolution. Before obliterating all of that, I would like to first apoctataliate or delve into the overall qualitation of this novel. This book covers all of the extremely extensive and often bizarre travels in and of my 40-year life, which could always have been a horribly worse or terrifically better life. But seriously, so what? Anyhow, I have traveled, I should say, more than most anyone should travel, having been to literally thousands of cities and towns, and having spent considerable time in most. It's been so ridiculous. I've often wondered how it is that I am still alive, and amazing to me as it is, still completely intact and identical in every way to my much younger self. Likely, life and aging will just hit me like a ton of fucking bricks in a goddamn bucket of solviary concretion in the next 8 months. I mean, now that this maddening book is finally fucking done. Still, that hasn't occurred yet, and regardless of me, this book is a book that fights to exist, ultimately for the sake of the search for and the finding of the true heart, also known as love. So therefore I, at the start of the night, see the culmination of all of my travels as meeting the love of my life in Vietnam, literally. Travel Around Haert is a book that is essentially my life story, from a muse with no to little credit for creating it coming from me, woven through the lens of travel, told in my own unique style, met with Neil Cassidy's style, then meets Finnegan's Wake, which only a little yet significant, portion was inspired by it before I ever read or ever even knew about. But still I knew by name that was specifically the case beforehand, strangely enough. That chunk of a weighty spell of a novel, to say the very, very near, very, very least. And finally, sometimes kicks it with Gandalf and Quentin, Tory, hopefully, and others, partially, in order to express poetry, occultism, adventure, soberingly painful personal stuff, humor, etc. However, overall, this is a positive and energized thing to read, and such is the experience for anyone ambitious, daring, subtle, and bored enough to read it. Yet as much of a sane creature of bright, sweet, and good light that it completely is, I will now say that I wrote the middle of it first. when I was locked away in a psych ward prison type of place for a very long time, too long, with extremely violent people, and forced to take strong destructive drugs into my body that neither you nor me created, all just because I was very sad for many valid reasons, and therefore simply peacefully, protectively, reclusively suicidal. Later, in this afterword, called Words After, I will further explain those 28 pages that comprise the heart of the Escape Aid 1 section of this book, by which work on this novel and the first serious stirrings of myself trying to undertake the immersive start to of a career and a life in writing truly began. Those 28 pages, written, wilt, jailed and drugged, and almost raped, cut and killed, etc. All as the world's stupid, blind attempt to punish my gentle, retroactive sorrow. Overall, this book was the most difficult and compromised thing I ever wrote. It nearly killed me, many volumes of times, and still to this day, completing it now, has also caused unseen, swimming, hoardy, shed-load profusions of colonized chaos. The effect on the reader, yet, should be the opposite tight. In a singularly beneficial and holy, good God, stocky way. And no, that last sentence was not intended as a joke. I really mean it, and I am correct. So no worries. Two major changes between editions. -- Okay, little history lesson here, fuckers. So, fucker swabs. Hey, in 2012, I did start and finish the very first edition in 2015. But this book is, in the only sense, really the true first edition. By the way, all of these references here might not make sense for the audiobook. And you can just translate a lot of this stuff as me talking about the print forms of the book, as though you are reading the print forms, even though you're hearing the audio form. Moving on. But this book is, in the only sense, really the true first edition. So you must therefore say, this novel was actually written from 2012 to 2020. Politicantocrats, birds flapping their right and left wings in a pattern known by the Bodhi heads. Count 'em, that's 8 years, folks. 8. Okay. As for the pretzel-like son ofs and itch, we now can move on to the Hookerbane page information Blevenedzi. Brief intercorruption. I should say Lulu website. That's where you're gonna find my first edition of the Bloody Travel Around Bleeding Hearts band book from Casey. You were wondering. Telling Lee not to say fuck is like telling a duck not to say quack. Fuck quack, pond luck. The bars on the alphabetic letter L being rotatory to F is what makes it socio-eulogy unacceptable, magnated thrum trevi. Of course, I don't hate progestrin modernists because some of my best defenses are retarded, illin, biffy, bifflin, bentleyines. I never plagued by the rules. Material. Seriously, no. Ow! Okay. Is for the page count note. Though I have not changed, cut, or otherwise mutilated, scarred 99.989% of the full original body of text, obviously of the print form. Nor would I have ever have wanted to of dreamed to text any ways. And therefore, obviously, I haven't changed any of the audio form either, really, if you think about it. Anyways, a lot of it's just obvious. I really haven't changed any of the original audio. Not really. At all. I think I removed the About the Author section and updated that. I'm actually sure that's all I did as far as altering the original audio body of text. Anyways, I have removed roughly 100 and maybe 125 or more fucking pages in terms of print. In the process of transcribing, then replacing, and cleaning up the formerly handwritten, scanned pages from that first edition there. You know, again, talking about the print forms here. Though it carries over to the audio in obvious ways. You know, just directly carries over from print to audio. I didn't change anything. I've also added roughly 100 and maybe more pages, which is what this audio is that you're hearing now, the last, 2 hours of Dancing Clam new material. Roughly 25,000 words. Some of which was written less than 2 weeks ago. Most of which is pulp matter, which concerns more than the past 5 years of Travival, Valor, Zizori. Screwed up the zizzer. Zizori. Just because you own Rolleroid X, don't make you the Pfizer, the hyphen proprietary you anti-political correctness phobos. All of this astonishing amount of pages that could have all been written in one day if my name was fucking Lance Bunyan. Okay? You got that, Jackie? I know what you just said. You just said the exact words. Who the fuck is Jackie? Well, my toilet doesn't have a solid answer for you. All that new Nesbess establishedly just jutted, and the language of English was used to place them at the end of the goddamn book in all its allness, other than an added introduction to the new edition placed at the beginning here, and a few other tiny additions sprinkled throughout, such as changes to the table of contents, additions of a few title pages, etc. Which doesn't really apply to the audio, at least the table of contents doesn't. What this means is that you now have a 95%-ish typed manuscript here, instead of the formerly 67% typed POZ. If you had the print version in front of you, which you probably don't, you're probably just listening to the audio like any sane person would. What this also signifies is that you have 50 pages of 5 all-new chapters posted up at the end. No offense to the print versions, though. You know, those still have their value, more or less. As another meager bonus, I did fucking stutter. Yes. See, this why you shouldn't have let it go for so long. The world, that is. Let it go meaning both try and don't try to be involved, neither guar. Symphony of Nestract Ursaturn. Point Boeing. This explains why the finished second edition product, now and here, is still hovering near its original 465 pages, whence it was first assembled 5 years ago, though 14 months of work has gone into these final changes, exacted by yours truly, which just amounts to an extra hour at the end of audio. It doesn't really affect the audio in any other way. You just get like a bonus hour at the end, maybe a little more. 3. Major changes between editions concluded, ... Of the most notable of changes, there are now just 28 pages, which do constitute chapters 7 through 13 of handwritten pages in this book, other than a random page or two elsewhere, compared to the nearly 180 or so in the original first edition, due to the fact that I also wound up combining many handwritten page fragments when cleaning them up, etc., etc., etc. It doesn't apply to the audio in any way, but whatever. I am diabolically, dreadfully, deadly sorry for any annoyance, eyeball pain, etc. It was, in fact, intentional that I left these pages in hand script, I admit, but of fordue avalid reasoning. They are happening basically from 2 causations. 1. I think their original DIY form emits a certain effect to expand the feeling of this gritty, half-baked travel adventure story of an rule-splitting demo tape type of unprepared old soul. And 2. They are special to me, having transformed from something that was forced to happen, like so many of the circumstances in this book, including the book Id's Elf, into a clump of sentimentally viable value. Imagine the 2 dots are really cute eyes, and the equal sign is the mouth. Aww. Also, yes, it is true, to hat et ceteras never do, nevers gets olds. 4. Notes as to minor affects, ... A. Also, finally, there exists some odd fraction of factual flaws, none of which were intended, none of which were even known by me, until very lately, bruh. Okay? The first one is a reference to time worked at Starbucks and at Tim Hortons. And for that matter, True Green and Kirby Vac, I believe. And those are all screwed up as far as the timing sequence, and so forth. I did work at all of those places, but never more than once each, and never for more than 2 weeks, other than the Starbucks, which was a few months as I recall. These are all from the beginning of the To America Return chapters, and the flaws in the timing and the seeming multiplicity of work periods. This is super minor, I admit. It doesn't affect the story in any way, so there really is no point in me having already wasted way too much of everyone's fucking time right now. Bye. B. Hugs are nice. C. There is at least one other discrep I'm directly aware of. Before I forget it in the future, that includes Chapter 10, Section 1, Chinandega being a, quote, muddy ghetto, end quote, supposingly, yet. I like leaving them, therefore known of the good reason. Christmas, F. One I do actually more than care about a little bit after I write this is connected to the Denver Boulder Netherland Magnolia Navajo Peak Crystal Top mentioned on the last page of chapter 21 and on the first 2 pages of chapter 22, and in the 5th stanza of section 2 of chapter 22 most specifically is mentioned. It's electricity. Spiral thing. I didn't change the original text, still I will state it here. Should now not only keep the Navajo Peak component as a separate or side thing, but should definitely have Dome Peak, Colorado, 39.990 degrees north, / 107.048 degrees west, as the actual pointed centrare peak of that whole western hemi-demi-sphere northern American. Why have a chapter name if you're not going to at least spire? Continent thing. Conversation over. Fucking fuckers. Fuckus. 5. Complete overall conclusion to the entire introduction of a really big book. .. On every level, every last little thing about this book finished. 11.11.11.11.22.2020 AMAD. Vietnam Time Zone. LT Zupan. Tons of love to you. Section 8. It's all commercials, etc. from LT Zupan, me, and ultimately from Muse Spirits, to speak diminutively of that. TAH. I mean, I rewrote the entire fucking Bible anew, and much better if I don't mind stuff yourself, in 3 fucking pages. For fuck's sakes. God. Supplemental 3. Spiral Trinity Book Preface. Originally published in Spiral Trinity. Corresponds chronological and linear time-wise to Chapter 3, Section 6 of Travel Around Haert. Entry explanation. This one always hurts. Somewhere shortly before or after the hurt, often comes the urge to insult somebody nameless, obviously not Jonah. Then I always quickly remember that in this era or mini Aeon, Yuga, generally incorrect, mean, and dangerously stupid people have power, and very so unfortunately. I do not have the wherewithal to openly insult and attempt to clarify/fix the evil that stands with and because of said people, whom seem to only know how to focus on insignificant flaws, unlike some people that are like me, any HOW, There was no point in saying all of that. Anyways, when Jonah did finally hear it, 11 years or so later, he said he was a little fond of it too. That made me smile. I wish people were never hurt because of certain people, as I am frequent to say. That wish matters so much more to me than any pain and insignificant me ever is seated, saddled, or burdened with. It also matters so much more than the pathetic use of alliteration on the obnoxious phrase, pity party, or anything else related to some people not being worth the time it takes to insult them, as they are promptly and punctually exiting my head. At least I can have the pleasure of taking healthy pride in knowing that I never did anything but defend myself against people that probably should have been attacked in various legal and highly toxically aggressive forms by any realistic standards, measures, or practicing. You don't even know what that means. And finally, BTW, I love Ethan, my son, so much. And I love you so much, Jonah, my son. Lazy. Travel around Haert. Said in a nice little Irish accent, but there's obviously a lot more to it than that. Explanation. I'm going, crazy, over here. Or pause crazy if you're listening to the audio, obviously. Explanation is what I already did, so I shouldn't have said explanation. Screwed that up. Notice the symmetry of the words the ent tree above the halo, which was unintentional. Catman. Not bad for my first attempt ever. Though, not to mention the dude looks like a fucking strawberry. It is a little too Jason Maskey. In the audio version, ideally, none of that should make sense. Unrelated text. That's a valid point, as are all the comment replies solemnly valid. Still, as a human being, and therefore one who possesses the yearning spirit of the enterprising nature of constant improvement, I would like to be here to stay. Say that it would be cool to get the milkshake delivered and made. Still, even faster than the future movie about time. Future boy. Not directed at anyone, I just like saying the phrase. I meant the phrase. Today. You want a toe? I can get you a little tow, Halek, by 2800 hours. But it will be late, and the Hispanic scene from the Back to the Future gag reel is racist. And other deleted scene had some bullshit anti-non-binary they pronoun nonsense, and it was so ahead of its time that it even said gag reel in 1983-ish. Post script office. I also wish you could capitalize numbers by just making them bigger. Okay, now that would really be zapidal. I'm seriously not trying to be funny by saying Woody Allen could be innocent. Obviously, this comment is done. Chai ramen is not the preferred nomenclature. More unrelated bonus text fuckers. Love you, future boy. Okay, also, volumeless. Great word. To quote Big Lebowski. Walter Sobchak. Also, let's not forget, dude, that keeping wildlife and amphibious rodent for domestic, within the city, that ain't legal either. Great word. Volumeless, dude. Volumeless. Papers, dude. Just papers. Great. Make whatever greater. Because that word is already great. Darn it, I told myself I wouldn't get political. I just wanted to make myself not get political and be great again. Within this comment, that is. Dude, I don't even know you, but I feel like everyone can appreciate the value of a snappy word. Over the line. That phrase was just directed by me, at me, by the way. And like that, poof, my comment is perfect. I don't even need to scan it for typos, but I am going to anyways. Really is a pretty decent word, bro. Although I feel like I probably have talked about it too much at this point. But whatever, peace. As an aside, man, I am tired of old rich white men barbarically fighting every time to decide what is going to lead a bunch of fools, and some not complete fools. That is not hate speech. It's smart speech. Even though emotions are more important than intellect, which is also relatively important just in my humble opinion. I'm guessing it's volumeless. If I may borrow that rad word, I shall return it instantly. I heartily promise, even though I don't need to because it's already returned. Hence the phrase return it instantly. Because of some techie reason for the end user, or whatever and whatnot, etc. Right. So here come two with four is what follows is a scrap of depressed anti-living within myself as a very reactual, believe it, apartment building within an individual apartment complex. At least you can believe that. Hell, sector. Yes, I'm still just living for today. These days, I don't think I could have some proposed source creation ideation pass through set, and I don't anything stays true other than wrongness of this when you really break it down. It started to work as a fact, but cared less to when it went written through the clever Coppelian works of fiction for Spedway, hyperbolic, science, wormhole, funnel dot diagram, racing, heart, this is Vin and Fin, pointless. I know it's difficult to, with a font like most that uses the same uppercase I and lowercase l. See slightly ahead. Sure, the L is slightly higher than the I, like anyone other than a tweaky dweeb is forever. Patron. See See anemone. Ava Patron. Screwed up the Patron. Don't give me Sprite in my coffee. I don't want no Sprite in my coffee. That shit way too bubbly. Like a bong bong. I don't even smoke weed. Like the cool cigarettes Keith Nam said. Your bitch can't even cook. I seen her, she burnt cheese. Your bitch don't cook. Bitch. Bitch. Okay. Bitch. That's an uppercase I, so it should read Biaz, not Blazan. Quest in stupid fuck. Not you, him. Hell, I'm not afraid anymore to be called nuts by idiots. Anyways, we probably all know at least one hymns, unfortunately, which is why we are collectively de-evolving, which is a fucking bad thing, by the fucking way. I'm glad we had a chance to have this goddamn fucking little wretched badass talk. Badass as in an ass that is bad, not good. L-I-L-I. I'd change my name if it made the orgasms I give even stronger and cooler. To Decepite Tetepteco. Truly Staniel deal, except I'm honest, literally. Whenever, literally, honesty, literally, can exist. So there, male bitch. Ha! I win this round, run this town. Thou shalt not inject the name of God into your oy vein. The shale of the earth, her body is like an 11-year-old's for no reason. Other gods before, during, or after, etc. Here's some empty space here. Izzy. Even though you need have only corroded away art of the Targula. God can spell God with an east cased G. Arugia tally la 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 chapatulia. Quit tit, shut up. Again and again. And no, the winning of the round joke is not some stupid ass paranoid read in to negate the fucking this stands a big surprise, which I actually did and do mean the infinity of that I fucking present tense as well meant it. And then I'm supposed to identify with the fiery feeling of the emotion of Welvin. Because I won because I care and because I try. Although fugue, the authenticity of caring and trying is simply actually underrated. Those who suck, suck. Yes, it is just. Never absolutely with an exception to even this etc. sentence. Etc. etc. fractal etc. etc. / etc. Too mixed up and bad. Near all earthen societal reality is way too obvious. So I'll just ahead and quit while I'm able to stun it getting pulled from me, like I don't already know what's wrong with what I express, and then gets treated as though it's wrong, which, like I already said, I already knew. It is not sometime, yes, no, maybe and beyond. Beyond trinary, fractal variety, etc., times 5-star system, etc. Largely automatic spin, but my intentions are cleaner without the orangutange Clementine wannabe launderment. Regardless of genderish, that sounds gross. Okay, let's just go with genderish then. You see how what speech comes out of me loops back in on putting itself in check, and how little and how much and how little I care about anything now. Anything. That was all boring. What an infinitesimal nothing sliver anything I participate in doing generally is, and not an in-between and beyond trinary, fractal variety, fractiset, etc. Meh. This one is a true essay, how Euclidevi eloquent. I fucking am so cool because I do whatever the fuck it is this time now. Great you fuck named Lee, I hate you moderately. This doesn't look good for college resource, young librarian anal matching, hairstyle instinct. Once again, we are back to non-binary chicks with braids. Thanks, fucks, given, I should know, you should know. Snack, thank, fuckery, fast, duahi. You should not a medical doctor. I wouldn't know really about anything short of my love for Uyen. Love. To tell the fucky. Blah ek. LT zippin' her cheerleader panties down. Wow, it's amazing how different things are when you change things. Plus, I love Uyen. Read all of those things. And bar hoppery, the flesh, beck and dash. Read all of those things. Because it's just with a thinly valid auto ebb gout. I had a dream I was part of the group that has each part stand alone on its own. AutoWeb GAOT. I had a dream I was part of the group that has each part stand alone on its own. I fucking woke up, mildly shaking off majorly embedded vulgar forms of pride. You can't tell me anything at this moment that already just passed there. You can't tell me anything at this moment that already just passed here. And on a vague ass note, yes, I've had times that are awful. On the seeming way up. But I was already way past giving up, meaning way given up, meaning. I wrote a story once that was 11 pages about soccer, just kidding. There's probably a fan club out there called Girls for Pele, or maybe Ladies for Pele. I read this sentence once and I go meh. And now I just finished a sigh, spelled the same as Cy Roland, but not intentionally until now. Synth part copy to ing odd am joy, tea, ix, glimpses beyond, an exponent, ratty sage, kale, in light, 10, meant, series drift, shitburst, trine, from 09 or 08-ish. I'm too lazy to very quickly and easily check the date on that. Enlightenment, when methodically and with clarity and resourcefulness. Honesty, a practiced sense of concerned intuition, and other pretty easy, basic, simple things, though I am being too wordy to make it sound simple, and way too self-referential for the hope of improvement from seeing myself and its self doesn't the best word that goes with grade right now is trigrade, but never really nuggets next. Eka Trinity. Take two of them and throw them away. I'm in love. Yes, I've fallen in to become inside of love. You want I say more? Or do want to go for it standing for social adjudication? Hun. The popes are almost always white essay. My dad was right when he concluded that racism is the most boring because it's way too obvious for humans with brain orgasm. Oh, screwed that up. Because it's way too obvious for humans with brain organs that racism, very bluntly, is incorrect. I am boringly predictable to myself in my own digression. I was always afraid that the ladies would hurt me more because of asshole men who don't understand someone like me, whom is strong enough to let myself get hurt for the sake of principles. And if anyone ever was reading in the Fir Beach Tree's first place, with all of that said, comma, yes, I am 1000% in love with one woman now and forever, and her name is Uyen. And I mean that in the truest and most good way, that universal multiversitude, etc., reality, clots, alludes, and forlaus, projecting in is receiving and artistic shaped flow pattern of the wormhole quantum flukes of it all. Maybe a human being may do better to think a little whilst typing or reading or enjoyably feeling, typing or reading or enjoyably feeling, all, so we can all get a bit more of what we all want, all. Sipa Haert. La love. Brass Street. I honestly really think most women are not rank yet rank better than most men, at least so far as of the sweet little snuggly year of 2021. Sink, you fools. Just some little ways back that mother, because of the meta-trivially quality things, I got fucking probably well augment the goddamn this book shit. XIII 5-point paraplegia site page 144 2.317.7. This is not my version of some ecstasied up rich producer fucks thinking they made something as good as pulp Hattori type of shit. I know the page isn't all that great. I know it isn't all that bad. Please quit trying to think I'm wrong for addressing you in this fashion, because in my universal and therefore 555% correct core intuition, I can feel it is correct for me to say to whom it may apply, which obviously isn't every reader, assuming this has any readershipy that again. I know the page isn't all that great. I know it isn't all that bad. It's just what I found when the fracking mining submarine reached its intuitional destination. And the fossil fuel is older than the concept of sides or feet. Point being, it's just true. That's just all that it is on that page. Footnotes and tiny toe notes are given. It is the true. Also, I should replace intuitional with intuitional. No, I shouldn't. Disregard that. This whole recording segment is fucking fine. Other than what I'm saying right now. As always, hope it helps, and is not perceived as though it was intended by me to be overbearing to anyone's totally different and or unique sovereign truths, which of course it's way too effing late for me to say that. Not, orange, green, blue, etc. Screwed that up. Orange, green, blue, etc. Whap, whap, whapst. Book written through L.T. Zupan. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents either are products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual events or locales or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical or audio, including photocopying, scanning, recording, or by any information storage or retrieval system or future technology, etc., without the written permission of the author, even where permitted by law. So, if you purchase this print form of this book without a cover, you should be aware that then this book is fucking stolen fucking property, bruh. Google is your friend, snow person, not snowman, okay? Snow person. Fuck. God. In the aforementioned unfortunate variation, or variable if you prefer, this book would have hypothetically been goddamn reported as unsold or destroyed. Okay. And then, the Halldam chipmunkery author wouldn't have received any cheery payment for this stripped book, underst, and first rough draft edition, ugly yet neat in its DIY-ity. Published on and or around exactly 2015. Second extended, transcribed, yet not absurdly fucked with edition that you hold here. Published on and or around precisely 2020. This book was written in innumerable places, towns, and cities both in U.S. Samerica, including, but not one to limiting when applicable, ranging from some of the top 10 ghettos to imprisonment twice, all the way to places I pwned by the ocean that are darkly, indescribably, thickly beautiful at night, where the whiskey was $40 a small cup, drawing the exquisite, sharp and soft out and out, through doors beyond souls beyond, while and while. The second edition, heavily so, wrote itself among many, many other places in the Danang of the Nam, Viet, that is, no goddamn joke there, by T.W. These writings began in the early autumn of on around specifically 2012 and were ultimately completed and hitherto published late fall of on around punctually 2020. The story found in this book spans on around circa 1444 ADD through 2020 GC, Gregorian calendar. See the Haert YouTube channel to find all creative works from the spirit of a muse segment, then secondarily filtered through LT Zupan. All 100% free in multiple formats, including audio as well as Zupan's music. Also all free. Email, FB, etc. contact info for creative purposes. Damn you all to hell, etc., 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 etc. Copyright 2015 and 2020. Written by Leo Thomas Zupan IV. This book devotes to anything with a heart of love. List of writing, etc., composed through LT Zupan. Sun Coffee Waiver, 1996 to 2006. Completed, yet there remains an extreme likelihood of permanent unreleasedness. Sapphire and Tendril, 1996 to 2006. Completed, yet there remains an extreme likelihood of permanent unreleasedness. Spiral Trinity, 2008 to 2009. Spiral Affinity, 2009. Spiral Unity, book, 2009 to 2010-ish. Permanently unfinished and permanently unreleased. Spiral Unity album, 2009 to 2020. Travel Around Haert, first edition, 2012 to 2015. Go at the Fjelt, 2015 to 2017. Ink Storm Rumble, 2016 to 2022-ish. Unfinished as of 2021. 11-page stories, 2017 to 2019. 55 songish poems, 2019 to 2020. Travel Around Haert, second edition, 2012 to 2015 to 2020. Infinitude randomnimity, revolving from love, 2020 to 2069 plus, unfinished as of 2021. Never Ending Love, 2020 to 2069 plus, unfinished as of 2021. No, there's nothing up there, just leave it alone. God. About the author, or, to put it clearer, about the one occasionally tapped by the spirit of the muse. Lee Zupan is 4 months from turning 40. In less than 3 months, actually, as he records this. But anyways, Lee Zupan is 4 months from turning 40 as he finally completes this fucking book. He is speaking in third person on this page, which you are on the same page of, or so it sometimes seems to seem. Lee has started around 8 music projects so far, with The Spirals being the name of the first few. Crystal Quality, a kind of ribbon of reality, was a demo project. The Questions, unfortunately aka 7 Mile Snake, The Fishes, and Perfect Broken Tones are some others. Most traces of these old projects on the web, with the exception of the Spiral Unity album by my band Haert, which basically consists entirely of LT Zupan. Although there was another very nice man named Sergio who played a fairly minor yet awesome role and then promptly quit and was never really super interested in the band. See all individual song descriptions on the Haert YouTube channel for song credits of the few live touring members, personnel, fancy titles, etc., etc., etc. Phone home. The aforementioned projects that should be destroyed should rightfully be destroyed because they were not true to themselves nor the respective muses, to say the least. Another project, this one called Heart Ocean, or maybe called Omni Loves Music, okay, was Toby Soon, okay, but it had too much knee. So, I was a musician for 24 years. Was. Past tense. The etymology for lieutenant, aka LT, is rather quite applicably accurate. Lee has written roughly 10 books so far, including this one. Okay. The first one, Lost and Stolen Simultaneously, was composed 24 years earlier than this one. I mean, it happens. It happens. The third, called Spiral Trinity, is published and available on the web if you Google Lee Zupan Spiral Trinity. Maybe Google Lulu.com with it too. I think it's somehow affiliated with Barnes and Noble and Apples and shit these days too. You can get it quite cheap. under $5 for the e-edition at most stores. Same goes for the fourth book, Spiral Affinity. Those last two comprise as collections of short story, poems, songs, metaphysical essays, illustrationing, travel journals, other experimental things, so on and so on. A fifth book, Spiral Unity, would have completed that trilogy or trinity, but some fucker in Guatemala took it. Bless his heart. And so that has finally morphed into a barely an album of the same in title mentioned above, and is available on the Haert YouTube channel. I mean, not mentioned above, mentioned before, because this is an audiobook, not print book. Lee. Motherfuckers. See the copyright, etc. page at the very beginning of this book for more channel, etc. info, which also has over 44 hours of Lee's audiobook narration of all of my all-original writing, and still more. Also, of course, many other copies and versions of my books can be found and bought in the all same fashion as the Spiral books, via the channel heavily mentioned before, and via basic, easy Google searching, etc. You damn fuck. Do you even realize how hot it is with her? I'm 6'2". She's 4.5 feet tall. Okay? Go add to Fjelt, subtitled Hard Ocean. The seventh book is an extended love poem, a full novella-length fiction story bridged as one. It is the best thing the muses ever wrote to me. Travel around Haert, traveled around the heart, go at the Fjelt, aka Heart Ocean, unknown to even itself at the time as far as subtitling, is an arrival, an ocean of heart and of love found. However, the best, of course, may still be yet to come. One always never really knows. Lee also wrote more fucking commercials here. And Lee also wrote a collection of short stories of literally 11 pages per story in length, 15 stories in total, which pressurized itself to varietize as much AP genre-ly. And then there's the fucking 75 or so poems I wrought. There's some more miscellaneous scattered works, and God, Lee's final writing project is 2 books at once that never ever end. To be published in 50-page volumes, only to end when I die, or if I find the right successor. They may never ever end. Why have a book or story, etc., that ever has to end? Anyhow, Book 1, entitled Never Ending Love, an ongoing, lightly illustrated story of a man in the deep future who gets in a new, love-oriented space adventure with an all-new reality every single small-ass chapter. Book 2, entitled Infinitude Randomnimity, revolving from love, an ongoing series of fairly random poems, essays, letters, journals, memoirs, etc., with no premise. Lastly, Lee occasionally sketches color ballpoint pieces and calls it art. He has done so for 26 years and has sketched roughly over 1,000 pieces, a multitude of them taking individually 50+ hours to complete through the course of weeks. Though he feels pressured to say also that it doesn't really fucking matter. He shall so humbly continue to compose illustrations, both for writing and art projects, and just to do it. Lee lives where it is possible to do so. He is on his way to Arunachala, on some kind of levels at least, to leave, to dive, to indefinitely. His name has etymology and love. Yet the ache for perfect eloquence is worse than juvenile, which is why he doesn't care if this sentence ends right now. 11, 11, 11, dot 11, dot 11, 11, 20, 20. LT Zupan.
The heart is where home is.